Hello, hello, hello. This is Gretch from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Art Giser of Energetic NLP. Art, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm really excited about being on the show. I love your podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I love having you on. I think this is going to be an awesome episode. And what I want to do is just read a little bit more about Art so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Art Giser is the creator of Energetic NLP. He is an internationally renowned NLP trainer, intuitive, and healer. Art's unique and diverse background includes NLP, spirituality, coaching, transformative, and healing energy work, and intuition development. He also manages a medical research lab for the University of California, San Francisco, and works with Fortune 100 companies to develop exceptional leaders and teams. Art, are you ready to speak to the IMCEO community?
I am. I'm very ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first question I had was to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
Well, I'm very, very, very independent. I wasn't entrepreneurially oriented. I was always looking for a job. And I remember a woman, she had been my first girlfriend in college, and she said, you know, Art, you're looking for the box to fit yourself into, and you're kind of an unusual person. You're going to have to build that box. And I knew what she was saying was true. And let me just, sorry, my camera was doing something weird there. So let me make it stop. Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
And then I was managing this research lab, and one of the top health science institutions in the world in San Francisco. And it was a good job, but I knew I didn't belong there. But I couldn't find what I wanted. And then I was walking by a bulletin board, and there was a flyer that said neuro-linguistic programming. And I read the words, and literally it felt like a bolt of lightning. Went right down, like through my head and down my midline. And the scientist in me went, what was that? And the mystic in me was going, what was the sign? And sort of things took off from there. But I'd like to say to some of your listeners, even though I've had my own business since 1985, I think it's only in the last few years I've taken myself seriously as the CEO of my business. And I think, like a lot of people, I was just doing the work I wanted to do and doing what I thought I needed to do to make that happen. But I wasn't putting on my CEO cap and going, what's my vision? How do I create a business? What help do I need? So I'm a reformed non-CEO.
Yeah. Well, no, that's awesome. It doesn't matter which way you find it one way or another. And it's great to kind of hear like it just reminded me of like a Harry Potter type story where you had the Thunderbolt when you found out exactly what NLP was, exactly how it connected. So I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper, and I've heard of NLP, and I know we talked a little bit more about it offline. Could you tell us about NLP and also what energetic NLP is and how you're serving your clients?
Well, traditional psychology, they used to say, 5 years was a minimum amount of therapy to make deep changes. There's an old Woody Allen movie where he's talking to his girlfriend and he goes, I've only been in therapy 12 years. And the people who started NLP knew of 5 or 6 therapists who got magical results with people. And they went, well, what are they doing differently? And so they started videotaping them, which in those days meant you had this huge machine and using a lot of processes to uncover what these people didn't even consciously know they were doing. What were the unconscious things they believed and how they acted? And that was the beginning of NLP. And NLP is really the study of your internal reality, how you make up the meanings about the world and how you think the world works. And I think most people nowadays realize that there's very little about our lives that's controlled about external factors. How we approach it from our internal reaction to things makes all the difference in the world. You have people that are incredible successes who had everything against them, and you have people with everything going for them who can't get their act together. And it's all about our internal reality. So, and NLP just developed a lot of ways to make really rapid, deep personal changes. And also, though, they realized you could use it to acquire new skills. Like, what is the way that a leader thinks? How do they observe people? How do they work with people? How do they think in terms of strategy? Or how do they ski? I mean, it can be anything. So NLP is really the study of how do you transfer skills from one person to another, and also how do you take apart the kind of programming that we have that keeps us in a box.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah. And I know that especially, I've read a ton of, information and you start to realize like you can't control certain things, but we have more control over, like you said, the world than we sometimes give us credit for. And a lot of times that begins, with what's in our mind and what we're saying to ourselves. And a lot of those things start to manifest itself. So that is kind of like what NLP kind of helps people out with as far as like discovering like what maybe you have underneath the surface, so to speak, and how to kind of deal with that.
That and well, very much how to deal with it, but also what's the secrets going on in people's brains? Why are some people really successful at certain areas? Because very often they're not any smarter or even harder working than somebody who's not successful. But their inner reality is different, and how they process the world and all the little connections, and that's all very, very changeable, it turns out. So pretty much what we would say in NLP is that anything that anybody can do well, you can do well. So,
Mm,
if you could put Michael Jordan's brain in my body, I'd be a hell of a short basketball player. I don't have, I don't have his muscle fibers and all of that, but I'd be, phenomenally better than I am. Instead of going, well, I'm too short for basketball, kind of thing.
mhm. Right.
So, we're going, what's going on inside people's head that either leads to failure or success, or mediocrity and success? And then how do you change, how do you release the old programming? And also how do you adopt these different kinds of thinking skills and emotional skills? And then in energetic NLP, we add in spiritual principles and working with the human energy system, what people often talk about chakras and auras. And um, uh, I like to let people know that if so many people immediately go, oh, that's woo woo. There's so many Nobel Prize winning scientists who believe in it. It's amazing. And,
Yeah.
these are not stupid woo woo people. and,
Yeah.
um, and so I want to introduce to people there's this whole other dimension to life that can be a real secret to success. And in fact, in places like Silicon Valley, a lot of very high level CEOs and high level people are using energetic principles and spiritual principles. They just typically don't talk about it because it can be bad for stock prices, because they don't want to sound weird.
Yeah.
But they're using it and they know it's not weird. People, just because something's thousands of years old doesn't mean it's stupid necessarily.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with that. And, because I'm really big believer in, vibrations and
Yeah.
all of those things and how, sometimes you can, direct your way by directing your thinking, directing your environment and things like that. So I'm one of those woo woo people, I guess, too. If that's a bad thing, then I'm okay with that because there's a lot of successful people that are quote unquote woo people too that are doing a lot of amazing things.
Well, just because we're woo woo doesn't mean we can't be logical about
Mhm,
it, and that we have to believe everything that we hear.
mhm.
There's a quite a bit of scientific research that's now backing up these kind of principles that we live in. And I love people who go, well, I don't believe in invisible energies. And I'll go, so how do you deal with gravity? How do you deal with getting a sunburn? It's like,
Yeah.
our lives are, you and I are talking through invisible energies. It's
Mhm.
like that's no longer science fiction, that's science. And it's like, how do we use this energy environment in and around us to bring out the best in ourselves and in other people? Because when people start using energy principles with their team, everything improves, everything gets better. you know my
Absolutely.
my corporate clients often will go, I'll work with a team of people that aren't getting along. And I do things from NLP and a lot of other very more practical kind of things, you might say. But then I'll be working with their energy and they'll go like, gee, we thought this was going to be hard, or everybody's getting along at the end of the day and they don't understand that, how that happened. you know, and it's something that's very, very spiritual and very, very practical in the way that I teach it. So
Yeah, and I think that's what we talked about too, is how there's a good kind of kind of balance between the two because, as a business person, you want to know how am I going to move the needle, so to speak, but to be able to do that and to balance that along with, the spirituality and things like that is a really good combination. And so I loved, Thank you for telling us a little bit more about that, and I appreciate that. And you might have already touched on this, but I wanted to ask you for what I call your secret sauce, and this is kind of like what you feel kind of distinguishes you or sets you apart.
A couple of things. One is that I make people in my programs take the Energetic NLP pledge, and part of that pledge is they won't believe anything that I tell them. So
Mm.
there's a lot of great people teaching spirituality and energy work, but they get very dogmatic and they get very, to me, simplistic. And I think the spiritual energetic world is dynamic and complex. And so I teach people how to connect more with, I offer, obviously, I'm teaching them ideas and how to work with things, but I don't want them to believe my ideas. My job is to help them connect with their own inner wisdom and spiritual information, because that will always be better than what I can teach them. So I use what I'm teaching them as a bridge for them really getting in touch with what's already inside of them. And then I teach them very practical ways to deal with it. So both of those I think, are part of the secret sauce. The other thing is that I think it all should be fun. There are a lot of spiritual systems that are very serious and energetic systems, and that's fun. They do great work. But I think people do even better if they're having fun, if they're laughing, if they kind of get off the spiritual arrogance and just sort of go, well, this is what I believe at the moment, and what happens if I play around with these things, and what gets better, and be more of an explorer than a ideologue about it.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you find this with your clients, is that sometimes when you are in that playful, joyful mode, it allows different perspectives and new ideas to kind of come in as well, too. So you're not like, we just have to do it this way. This is the only way to
Right.
do it. When you become more like, quote unquote, a kid and a child, and you start to enjoy things, then you start to be able to look outside of the box. And like you said, you created your own box. So you're also able to do that as clients.
Exactly. And I found when I was training people, if I put up signs going, you're not allowed to do it right, you're not allowed to tell the truth, you know, you just do it however you can do it in the moment. And like if they're reading somebody's energy, just tell them what you perceive, but
Hmm.
not like you're Moses with the Ten Commandments. It's just like, like anything else in life. Well, this is how I perceive it, which I think is part of being a great CEO and leader is putting it that way, because there's a term in management consulting. It's a setting up an environment where people can disconfirm what you're saying. So the way a lot of CEOs go wrong is they set up this environment where nobody can challenge them. And the people, and the smarter they are and the better they are, the more often they set up that environment where a lot of the greatest leaders are always getting other people's opinions and being and going, it's like I did work at Intel years ago, and I don't know what the culture's like now, but before I did the work, people went, oh, by the way, if you're not being challenged by people, it means they hate what you're doing. And they're not even taking you seriously. Because at Intel, they would encourage, you could be a junior level engineer talking to an executive, and you could tell them, well, no, there's a better way to do it. you know, and they welcome that. And that was one of the reasons they were so successful for many, many years is again, they they wanted everybody's ideas. They wanted people to constantly challenge the thinking. And I try to bring that into my work, both in how I train people and how I work with my clients, whether they're corporate or more personal development. And it's
Yeah,
just
that
more fun, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that makes perfect sense because you always hear that if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room, or you're not basically challenging yourself, because I think that especially that creative tension, that creative challenge is where, really great innovations happen, because you have somebody that is on your team that might be more of an expert in X, Y, and Z, and they're able to provide that perspective. And as a leader, you should be able to, to welcome that and be able to empower that person to want to do that even more.
I always tell my students that I go, give me your ideas. If they're better than mine, I'll steal them and use them.
Exactly.
I'll probably give you credit even, but I don't steal them.
Exactly. That makes perfect sense. So, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
Yeah, a really simple habit. And again, if you do this playfully, like it's like a little game, like what I'm about to say, if you were 5 years old, you'd do it brilliantly because you wouldn't overthink it. is that there's a principle in energy work that energy follows your thought and intentions. Energy follows your thought and intentions. And that sounds too simple, but it's true. Uh, and you can access a lot of these unconscious abilities using symbols or metaphors. So what I encourage people to do is to imagine a magnet. And everybody played with a magnet when they were a child, and they know that a magnet has this thing that has energy. And let's say you're holding a pin and holding a magnet. If you let go of the pin, the magnet will do all the work. It'll just pull it over. So a phenomenal thing to do in the morning or before a big meeting, or you can even do it during a meeting if it's not going well, whether it's a sales presentation or a team meeting, um, to do it afterwards, is you just, so like when I'm working with a group of people, I'll just imagine there's a magnet outside of the room, and I'll just imagine that any of the energy in the room that isn't serving them goes out to the magnet. And I don't decide what it is. I just, the way I think of it is my spirit talks to their spirit and go, what's not helping us here? And we send it out to the magnet, and I just pretend the magnet goes into the earth and gets recycled. And then I just imagine the room is now being filled with energies that will help them. Energies of collaboration, creative problem solving, fun, amusement. And I worked with as many as a couple hundred people in a corporate group, department at one time, and completely changed the mood in a room in 5 minutes. And uh, and it's also, you get up in the morning, you put a magnet out and go, okay, whatever energies in my energy field that isn't going to help me today, send it out to the magnet. And then you just ask your spirit to bring in the energies that will help you. And if people only did that, everything goes better. And let me just be clear, when you do it with other people, you don't force anything on them. That's a really bad idea for all kinds of reasons. So if I'm with a team, I just imagine the energies we don't really want are leaving, and the energies they really want that will help them will come into the room. So if I'm working with a team of people that hate each other, deep down inside, they don't want that. They want to get along. They're stuck with each other, and
one way or another.
Yeah, so they will let go of the energies that aren't serving them, and they'll bring in energies that work, and then they'll just kind of go, oh, and they see each other differently. And in fact, one of my students who works with the Silicon Valley company, she was in a hurry, and she always does this during the meetings. And she was in a hurry and she didn't do it. And it was the first bad meeting they'd had in years. She started doing it. She was going, note to self. Yeah. And another Silicon Valley client, people just go, they don't know why, but they go, everything goes better when you're around. And a lot of it is she just keeps clearing the energy and bringing in energies. Again, not forcing anything on people, but you're changing this environment that we exist in and aren't aware of. So again, people just imagine a magnet, let your spirit send off whatever isn't serving you or them, and let your spirit, drop that in the earth, let your spirit bring in energies that will help you. And if people try that, I hope they'll email you and let you know how it works, because it's frigging phenomenal and it's so easy. Because
Yeah.
I'm lazy, I'm looking for what's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because if it's too complicated, then people are less likely to do it. But I love that, and I especially hear that with athletes, especially like they'll visualize exactly what the them hitting the final shot at the end of the game or whatever it is, because that visualization becomes and starts to manifest itself in the game and competition and all those things. So I hear that especially there.
And when we talk about athletics, I always laugh when people go, they don't believe in energies, and then you listen to any game, the energy of the crowd is fantastic. It's like why do people go to a game when they have a 10-foot TV, or they'll go to it? I work a lot in England. The pubs will be crowded. Well, people have plenty of good TVs at home.
Mm-hmm.
You like the energy of the crowd, and everybody knows it. And so you can do that deliberately. And again, even if you're a solopreneur, doing it with yourself, particularly if you have a home office, just keep clearing. So like when I'm working at home, I'll clear the energy and I'll bring energy into that part of my home that's going to help me work. And then other parts of my house, I have other energies.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And you might have touched on this too, but this is
Uh,
like a word of wisdom or piece of advice. Or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
well, so a couple. One is particularly for solopreneurs and small businesses is to really take, at times during every day, put on that CEO cap and really think of your business as a business from that bigger perspective. So, we all get involved in the tactics and what we're doing at the moment, but that not stepping back. So like I had a promoter in England for years who was doing a horrible job, and people would kind of try to warn me, but I was busy and I just, oh, that's their job. And I just trusted them. And when I actually started putting attention on it, it was like, oh my God, I'm not being the CEO of my business. I'm not going, this is like 10 years behind. I mean, you're an internet marketing person, and they
Mhm.
were like doing stuff from 10 years ago. And I wasn't paying attention. And I think for a lot of us, we get so busy that we don't schedule in that time where we're the CEO, we're looking at the big picture and going, what's the vision? What's it going to take to get there? What help do I need? And really look at the big picture. So for me, that would have changed everything. I'd have been 20 years ago where I am now.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because a lot of times you get stuck, especially like you mentioned, if you're a solopreneur, you're juggling, wearing so many hats. Sometimes it's very exhausting to, take a step back, or you feel like if you do take a step back, this is going to fall or that's going to fall. So you have to be able to understand that if you want to be in business for a long term, you have to have that long term perspective. You have to be able to look at a vision beyond just the task that you're doing today.
And the other thing for some of us is to go that actually can be fun, and an enjoyable thing. To me, it was always like, oh, more work, more work. And it's actually fun. And then, of course, it leads to less work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Because you're taking a long time.
on the hamster wheel going, I don't have time to do that big picture stuff.
Exactly. When you may not even need the hamster wheel. So there you go. There might be somebody that can run it for you, or a machine that can do it for you. So it's always about thinking about those things.
That's the second nugget is, even when you can't afford it, and, I was the prime example of not doing this. Get help, get help,
Mhm.
get help. you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great reminder. And I know you touched on this one as well too, but I wanted to ask you the definition of what it means to you to be a CEO.
you know, the first thing I would say is that people get to make up how they want to be a CEO, and we really have that freedom nowadays. And but for sure, as a CEO, you have to have the big picture, be looking at big strategies, and make sure that you have the right people doing each piece of it, and that you're not doing the things that you shouldn't be doing, and that um, to me though, along with the vision and this overall picture, the other part is the CEO. It's your job to bring out the best in yourself and other people.
Mm,
And he's been retired for years now. But when General Electric was super successful, a man named Robert Welch headed it, and he talked about his job was to make sure these fantastic people under him were coordinating, talking to others, sharing learnings. He goes, "That's my job. They're all smarter than me at what they do. My job is to get them to work together and to set up an environment where they can be at their best." So when I coach leaders in corporations, I always go, that's your job, to set up an environment where you can be at your best and they can be at your best, and where they feel free to give you ideas and feedback and to tell you what's working and not. So hope that answered your question.
yeah, it absolutely does. And I think that, it's a great perspective and a reminder for us to kind of remember as being CEOs in a way, any way we choose, is that we have to have kind of that vision and that looking forward and be able to put all those pieces and cogs together, especially when people have their own specializations or their expertise. We have to be able to kind of place that all together so that it makes that masterpiece that we want to be our business.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just doing your business. You're not the
Mhm.
CEO. So
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I truly appreciate you, Art. And what I wanted to do was pass you the mic just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know, and then how best they can get a hold of you.
well, whether they did it through me or anybody else, I really encourage listeners, if this what I'm saying resonates at all, you can start learning the secrets that some of these top people in Silicon Valley and other places are using, that they are working with energy work, and that it's simple, it's fun, it makes everything in your life better, from your relationship to your children, to your lovers, to everybody else. So I really encourage people to investigate this and not buy the propaganda that it's all unscientific, and and to this really solid work that can be done there. And I've set up a special web page. It's my general website is energeticnlp.com. So the word energetic, NLP, like Nancy, Larry, Peter.com. But if they do / I am CEO, the name of your podcast, then there'll be a page with some special, there'll be like a webinar that will teach them some simple, powerful energy processes. There'll be an opportunity if they want to do a free discovery session with me on looking at how different spiritual and energetic aspects of their life are holding them back from completely fulfilling the goals. And there's a couple of other things. So it's all on the energeticnlp.com / I am CEO page.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Art, for putting that together. And we'll make sure to have those links in the show notes so everybody can follow up with you, hear about all the awesome things that you're doing on an even deeper level. And again, I truly appreciate your time, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Well, you too. And again, keep up the great work. I think your show is really filling an important niche. So I'm thrilled that you're doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.